Good evening, Thunderf00t. I just watched your last video, and I must admit that now that you have clarified what you wanted to say in the first one, it appears that I completely understood you the first time round. Now, I fully understand that you are in favour of them building their little Muslim community centre, and I understand why. But having watched this second video, I now understand entirely why there was something that, well, just didn't seem right about what you said in the first video. It gets no better in this one. In fact, your message just seems to ring out louder. Allow me to explain. This is what you said. I will not be lectured on the virtues of tolerance, nor accept bargaining chips labelled in the name of tolerance from someone who, in order to comply with their religion, gets down on their knees 5 times a day and prays to an icon of discrimination. It's also stated clearly in the info box under the first video. This is where I see there being problems. You state that Muslims are praying towards Mecca in your video, and as I am replying to that, then I will go with your generalizations regardless of your accuracy. One of the things about all mosques is that they point towards Mecca, or at least the birthplace of Muhammad, which, granted, is kind of the same place. All of them do. It's a basic design feature of the building, and all practicing Muslims therefore pray in that direction. Granted, a great many Muslims may pray at home or in the workplace, but praying in that general direction where possible is encouraged. Now, anyone Muslim enough to want to build a Muslim community centre as opposed to a multi-faith or secular community centre is going to be Muslim enough to pray in that direction. It kind of goes with the territory. You don't get many atheists wanting to build Christian community centres, and you certainly don't get many Christians proposing and financing mosques, and vice versa. Now, equally important is the fact that in the US there are laws that protect freedom of religion as well as freedom from religion, and so, as you say, they have the right to build it. In the US, there is such a thing as religious tolerance, although sometimes it would take an act of pure faith to believe it. It is for this reason that they do indeed have the right to build their community centre, and it is a community centre. Let's not get confused about that. There are prayer rooms in hospitals, railway stations and airports, but that doesn't make these buildings mosques, churches and temples. The building is going to be predominantly used by Muslims who have a need to pray at regular intervals throughout the day, and it's located in a predominantly Muslim area, so there is no surprise that they are including such facilities. After all, without those prayer rooms located on the higher stories of the building, it would be just a normal secular community centre and nobody would bat an eyelid. But let's get back to my point. By stating that you will not be lectured on the virtues of tolerance by someone who prays in the direction of an icon of intolerance such as Mecca, you are, intentionally or not, including all practicing Muslims in that statement. You may not realize it, but you have made a generalization of such sweeping magnitude that it is worthy of His Holiness Saint Patrick of Condell. You seem to be overlooking the fact that before this whole issue was completely blown entirely out of proportion by the US media, the stated goal of the centre was to encourage tolerance and foster links between the Muslim and non-Muslim communities. Something that the talking heads in the media at first applauded before they jumped on the bandwagon of intolerant self-righteous fury that has made this non-issue the pressing issue of the day. I, for one, in part, agree with your statement of intent, but I believe that it would have been better directed at all those who promote intolerant views, based in religion, as is usually the case, or not, rather than at Muslims in general, as it appears to be the case in your video. This would at least include the protesters picketing the proposed site of this community centre, who believe so adamantly that the Constitution of the United States of America, the thing that the President swears an oath to protect, is being undermined by the President himself when he states quite correctly that the developers have the right to build it. These self-same protesters who, when it comes to them, extol the virtues of freedom of religion and freedom from religion as long as it's the freedom from the Islamic religion, and contend that further laws are needed to ensure that they do in fact remain free from Islam. Now, don't get me wrong, I am no friend of Islam. I am an equal opportunity atheist. All proponents of horseshit get the same cold shoulder, regardless of denomination or faith. I was of the impression that you were too, but since Draw Muhammad Day, it has become more apparent that this is not necessarily the case. You are a purported flag-bearer for reason, an educator, a crusader for free speech. You built your YouTube career on this, yet your more recent videos have promoted the message that if a person is a Muslim, then they have no right to lecture you on tolerance, and you decry conditions in Saudi Arabia, seemingly acquainting their practices with the practices of all Muslims throughout the world, regardless of the fact that Saudi Arabia is more the exception rather than the rule. That hardly sounds tolerant to me. You once used the nickname Poster Boy for creationist stupidity, PCS for short, to describe Sean, Venomfang X. Be careful. If you continue the way you are going, it's only a matter of time before you start recommending books published by WorldNet Daily, and people start calling you Poster Boy for anti-Islamic twaddle. Let's say Pat for short. And we wouldn't want any of that now, would we? Peace. Unless apparently you happen to be a Muslim, in which case you are probably an ultra-conservative Muslim fundamentalist who lives in Saudi Arabia.